Good morning. So we are discussing the third technique in the external data representation and marshalling, that is XML schema. So we have discussed the basics of the schema. Okay, so we discussed about XML element, XML attribute. Okay, last class. So and also we have discussed about um, XML schema, XML namespace we have discussed. Okay, so XML namespace, so which is represented by XMLNS. XMLNS. Okay. And now XML namespace. So we are discussing XML so that means there are certain standards in XML we have to follow. If a tag is open, then internally and another tag is open. So inside tag should be closed first. Then only outside tag will be closed next. Okay, that is the funda. And hierarchical format. Okay, it follows if more than one tag is there, so it will follow the hierarchical format. And we have discussed about if anything is present after equal to, we call it as XML element. After equal to and within double quotes, we call it as an XML element. And regarding XML attribute, anything within the tags, opening and closing tag. So whatever the element that follows between the opening and closing tag, we call it as a XML attribute. Okay, so here in this case, in the given example, name, place, and year or XML attributes, and person ID 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is nothing but the element. Okay, clear? I hope everyone got the clarity. And names, XML names. So like how we have, I mean, in programming languages, variables have certain structure. Okay, so here also XML names can be begin with a letter, also can start with a underscore or colon or angle bracket. Okay, sorry, underscore or colon. Okay, we can start the name with colon also, just like how we name we have given name, place, year, and given. So like that we can start with either underscore or colon. Okay, that is nothing but XML names. That means the names of the tags and attributes should be start with either a letter or with the underline or a colon. Okay, that is what we have discussed. And after that, how to represent the binary data. So that is another important challenges. So we can represent the binary code using special symbols like plus, pipe, or equal to. Okay, and what is a well-formed XML document? So well-formed document means if a tag is started, another tag is immediately started. The second tag will be closed first, and last, that is LIFO, stack order you have to follow. Next is C data. So C data is nothing but, suppose you want to represent special symbol, the king's cross. So there is a area in let us say in a city, that is King's Cross. So KNG apostrophe S. So how to represent that value? So we can represent using ampersand APOS or C data. That also we have discussed in the last class. So C data is the mechanism used to represent either special character like apostrophe, quote, brackets, like that. Okay, so that is about the well-formed documents and C data. And then after that, we have discussed about XML prologue. So XML prologue means the first line in the XML document is nothing but the XML prologue. So it has version name, encoding name, and standalone. Yeah, if it is standalone, then it will say yes. Otherwise, you will include the XML document from the external document. External document here you will include. So that means if it is a if it depends upon the external definitions, then we will say standalone equal to no. If does not depend upon the external definitions, we will say standalone equal to yes. Clear? And encoding is UTF-8. So universal transfer format. So what is universal transfer format? So I already told. So that is nothing but a Java supports UTF. That means not only ASCII characters, but also special Thai or European characters or Greek letters. So all those can be represented in using UTF-8. Okay, so that also is supported by this XML. Okay, XML support encoding technique is UTF-8. UTF-8. Other encodings also possible, not only UTF-8. So like ISO 88591. So that is also possible. That is also possible in XML. So after that, we discuss about the XML namespaces. So I already discussed. So namespaces, what is the importance of namespace in programming languages as well as in markup languages. In programming languages, we will use it for provide clashes in the code, program code. Whereas in XML document, we will use namespaces. Okay, so for example, to in XML, the namespace is nothing but the set of names for a collection of element types and attributes. Set of names for a collection of attribute names that is referenced by a URL. అంటే URL ఇవ్వాలంటే XML ఎలా ఇస్తాం నేమ్ స్పేసెస్ రూపంలో ఇస్తాం అన్నమాట in the form of namespaces. We will give hyperlinks in the form of namespaces. That is the technique here. So the namespaces contains what? Tags and different types of elements and attributes. Clear? Next. Any element that make use of XML namespace can specify that namespace as an attribute called XMLNS. So what is the attribute associated with the namespaces? XMLNS. XMLNS. And what is the value for this XMLNS? The value is a URL referring to the file containing the namespace definitions. Okay. So ఎక్కడైతే ఉందో సో ఆ నేమ్ స్పేస్ ఇక్కడ ఇస్తాం అన్నమాట. ఓకే, అట్లయితే మన వేరియబుల్స్ ని మామూలుగా పాయింట్అవుట్ చేస్తాము. ఇన్ సిమిలర్ వే యూ కెన్ ఆల్సో యూజ్ ఫర్ సో పర్సన్ ఇక్కడ ఏంటది cdk4.net/person. సో పర్సన్ అనేది నేమ్ స్పేస్ అన్నమాట. ఓకే, క్లియర్? సో ఇన్ ద నేమ్ స్పేసెస్ యూ విల్ గివ్ ది హైపర్ లింక్స్ అన్నమాట. ఓకే, సో అండ్ నెక్స్ట్ and the PRS. What is PRS here? So if you see here, this is namespace XMLNS and PRS here. PRS. So what is this? The PRS prefix is bound to this particular sentence. Prefix. Okay, PRS is the prefix associated with this one. Okay, and a namespace applies within the context of the enclosing pair of start and end tags. So this is a start tag, this is the end tag. Okay, next. So that is about the namespaces. And now, so what is the advantage of this namespace is it allows an application to make use of multiple sets of external definitions in different namespaces without the risk of name clashes. Same namespace ఎట్లయితే మనకి ప్రోగ్రామింగ్ లాంగ్వేజ్ లో నేమ్ స్పేస్ ఎట్లయితే యూజ్ చేస్తాం క్లాషెస్ రాకుండా, ఇక్కడ కూడా నేమ్ స్పేస్ అనేది యూజ్ చేస్తాం అనమాట క్లాషెస్ రాకుండా. క్లియర్? సో ఇక్కడ ఈ ఫైల్ సంబంధించిన ఏంటి నేమ్ అంటే పిఆర్ఎస్ నేమ్, ఎందుకంటే ఇక్కడ పిఆర్ఎస్ అనేది అసోసియేట్ అయింది. ఇక్కడ నుంచి తెచ్చింది కాదు, ఈ ఫైల్ పర్సన్ అనే ఫైల్ నుంచి తెచ్చింది కాదు అనమాట. సో ఇట్ ఈస్ బిలాంగ్స్ టు ది పిఆర్ఎస్ నేమ్, పిఆర్ఎస్ ప్లేస్, పిఆర్ఎస్ ఇయర్. అంటే దిస్ బిలాంగ్స్ టు ది ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ namespace. That is PRS is the existing one. So PRS name, PRS place, PRS here, PRS here, PRS here, PRS name. That means it is specific to this particular document. So even though it may exist in what is this PRS? So even though it may exist in where person. What is this PRS? XML colon PRS is person. Okay. Now multiple sets are extended in different namespaces without the risk of namespaces. Without the risk of namespaces. Okay, so this is an example. Now, now we will see about XML schemas. In today's class, we will see about XML schemas. See, an XML schema for the person structure. So, an XML schema defines the elements and attributes that can appear in a document. Okay, how the documents are nested on the order and the number of elements, whether an element is empty or can include a text. Okay, and for each element, it defines the for each element, so elements attributes, and for each element, it defines the type and default value. See here. See here. XML and element and type. Type a default string. Okay. And here the element name is place. Element name is name. Type is string. Place also string. Here type is positive integer. What is the type? Positive integer. And name is ID. It is also a positive integer. It is an attribute. చూడంతా క్లియర్ గా ఉంది చూడండి. ఐడి అనేది ఏంటి? Attribute. Name, place, year అనేవి ఏంటి? Element. So this we have to know in element. So name is an element, place is an element, year is an element. And what is the type of the name? String. What is the type of the place? String. What is the type of the year? Positive integer. And what is the name of the attribute here? ID. ID is the attribute. And what is its type? Positive integer. Okay, so this is a schema. Schema defines the elements and attributes. Both. So this is an element and this is an attribute. Schema defines what? Elements and attributes that can appear in a document. And how the elements are nested. See, this is one sequence. And how the elements are nested and the order and number of the elements. This is the order you have to follow. First name, then place, then here. This is the order you have to follow in a XML. XSD means XML schema. Schema definition. Okay, so XML NS is namespace. Okay. And what is the element name? Person. And what is the type? Person type. What is the complex type name? Here also person type. Okay, so for each element, what are the elements it will first list out, and for each element it will list out the for each element it will list out the default value and its type. Default value and its type. Clear? Any doubt? So this is an example of schema, and this is an example of namespace. schema and is an example of namespace. Okay. Without namespace, simple. This is simple. This is a XML definition. Person ID equal to 1, name, place, year, and format person. So this is a normal way. So this is namespace. If you want to include namespaces, you can include that. So the extension is that a single schema definition may be shared by many different documents. Okay, sorry. An XML document that is defined to conform to a particular schema, so may also be validated by means of that schema. So that is another point we have to note down. For example, the sender of a SOAP message may use an XML schema to encode it. Okay, and the recipient will use the same XML schema to validate and decode it. And document type definitions or DTDS were provided as part of the XML specification. That is another important point. And the syntax of DTDS is document type definition is different from the rest of the XML. Is quite limited in what it can specify. It cannot the XML the document type definitions do not describe data types and its definitions. Okay, so DTDs are not used for defining web services, although they may still be used to define documents that are transmitted by the web services. Clear? And there is a Java software for writing out Java objects as XML and for creating Java objects from such structure. And mastering, unmastering, there are Java software. There is a software available. Okay, for writing out Java objects as XML and for creating Java objects from such XML. Objects నుంచి ఏం చేస్తాం మనం సీరియలైజ్డ్ ఫామ్ అంటాం. అక్కడే అంటే ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ టు బైనరీ అంటాం. అలా కాకుండా ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ టు టెక్స్చువల్ ఫార్మాట్. ఇది XML అంతా టెక్స్టే. సో ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ టు టెక్స్చువల్ ఫార్మాట్ ఈస్ పాసిబుల్. So that we can do using APIs for the XML. Okay, so next, this is about the XML. So any doubt in this XML schema and XML namespaces and XML definition? Any doubt you have? Any doubt? Shall we proceed remote object references? Okay, yeah. So what is a remote? Okay. So what is a remote object reference? So this section mainly concentrates on remote object reference. And this section and a remote object reference is only applied to Java and Corba. Okay, that suppose object model. Okay, it is not relevant to XML. This topic is only relevant to Java and Corba. Okay, so what happens when a client invokes a method in a remote object? So an invocation message is sent to the server process that has remote object. This message need to specify which method, which particular object is to have its method invoked. Okay, ఇప్పుడు మెథడ్ ఉంది. సో మెథడ్ ఏముంటుంది? జావా అంటే మెథడ్స్ ఎక్కడ ఉంటాయి? ఒక క్లాస్లో ఉంటాయి. అంటే క్లాస్ ఎలా ఇన్వోక్ చేస్తాం? ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్ ఇన్వోక్ చేస్తాం. అంటే ఏంటి? ఆబ్జెక్ట్ కూడా తెలిసి ఉండాలి. ఏదైతే మనం మెథడ్ని ఇన్వోక్ చేస్తున్నామో రిమోట్ మెషిన్లో. ఓకే, సో క్లయింట్ అనేది సర్వర్లో ఉన్నటువంటి రిమోట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ని ఇన్వోక్ చేయాలి. ఓకే, సో మెథడ్ని ఇన్వోక్ చేస్తాం, ఆబ్జెక్ట్ని కాదు. సో మెథడ్ని ఇన్వోక్ చేసి whenever you invoke a method at the remote side, so the server process that which hosts that remote object, the particular so a remote object reference is an identifier for a remote object that is valid throughout a distributed system. So what is an identifier? So it is a remote object reference. See the definition here. It is an identifier. A remote object reference is an identifier. So identifier for a remote object that is valid throughout a distributed system. మనం జావా సీరియలేషన్ చదువుకున్నప్పుడు చదువుకున్నాం. హ్యాండిల్స్ ఉంటాయి అంటే ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ని ఇంకొక ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ని రిఫర్ చేయటం. నథింగ్ బట్ హ్యాండిల్స్. ఓకే. సో హియర్ ఆల్సో వాట్ హ్యాపన్స్ ఈజ్ ఇన్ కేస్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ remote object reference also, so it is nothing but an identifier for remote object that is valid through the distributed system. And when you pass this remote object reference, it is passed in the invocation message to specify the object to be invoked. Okay, so client నుంచి సర్వర్ కి రిక్వెస్ట్ రీచ్ అయిన తర్వాత సర్వర్ లో ఏ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ని ఇన్వోక్ చేయాలి, ఏ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ ఉన్నటువంటి మెథడ్ ని ఇన్వోక్ చేయాలి అనేది మనం పంపించేటువంటి, సో వాట్ ఎవర్ ద రిమోట్ object that we send, so that will decide the method, appropriate method to which we have to invoke the method present in the remote side. Remember the remote object reference. Clear? So do we pass remote object reference or not? Yes, we will pass remote object reference in the invocation message to specify which object to be invoked. Okay, details మనకు నెక్స్ట్ యూనిట్ లో వస్తుంది, డిస్ట్రిబ్యూటెడ్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ మోడల్ అని. సో ఇక్కడ ఏంటంటే జస్ట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు నో దట్ వీ విల్ పాస్ ది రిమోట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ రిఫరెన్స్ ఆల్సో ఇన్ ద ఇన్వోకేషన్ మెసేజ్ టు నో ది ఆబ్జెక్ట్ విచ్ కంటైన్స్ ది మెథడ్ టు బి ఎగ్జిక్యూటెడ్, The concept clear? Okay, so now there may be many processes hosting remote objects. So remote object references must be unique. ఓకే, అంటే చాలా ఉండొచ్చు ఆబ్జెక్ట్స్, కానీ ఒక్కొక్క ఆబ్జెక్ట్ కి ఒక్కొక్క రెఫరెన్స్ ఉన్నాయి. ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ యూనిక్. అంటే ఒక్కొక్క ఐడి, ఆ ఐడి అనేది యూనిక్ గా ఉండాలి ఒక్కొక్క ఆబ్జెక్ట్ కి. ఓకే, సో ఈవెన్ ఆఫ్టర్ ది రిమోట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అసోసియేట్ విత్ ద గివెన్ remote object reference is deleted, it is important that remote object reference is not reused. So because its potential invokers may retain obsolete remote references, that is another important point. And any attempt to invoke a deleted object should produce an error rather than allow access to different object. మనం ఒక ఆబ్జెక్ట్ కావాలని పంపించాం, so we send a request to invoke a particular object, but that object is deleted, so it doesn't mean that it has to invoke another object which is available in that machine. So if it is deleted, just simply send an error and come back. Okay, you simply place an error that this object is already deleted in this server, so there is no method associated with this to invoke. So that's just pass an error, that's it, that's an error. But don't try to access an object which is already deleted. And there are several ways to ensure that a remote object reference is unique. సో రిమోట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ అనేది యూనిక్ అని ప్రూవ్ చేయొచ్చు. సో ఎలాంటి వన్ వే ఏంటంటే, వన్ వే ఇస్ కన్స్ట్రక్ట్ రిమోట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ డిఫరెన్స్ బై కన్కాటినేటింగ్ ది ఇంటర్నెట్ అడ్రస్ అండ్ పోర్ట్ నెంబర్ విత్ ది టైమ్ ఆఫ్ క్రియేషన్ అండ్ ఏ లోకల్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ నెంబర్. వెరీ వెరీ ఇంపార్టెంట్. సో ఎలా మనం ప్రూవ్ చేస్తాము రిమోట్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ డిఫరెన్స్ యూనిక్ అని ఎలా ప్రూవ్ చేస్తాం అంటే, ఇంటర్నెట్ అడ్రస్ ఏది సర్వర్ యొక్క ఇంటర్నెట్ అడ్రస్, సర్వర్ యొక్క పోర్ట్ నెంబరు, అట్లానే its time of creation and a local object number. Okay, what is this local object number? This local object number is incremented each time an object is created in that process. Okay, ఇంకో ఆబ్జెక్ట్. సో అది ఆ ప్రాసెస్ కే మనం పంపిస్తా ఉన్నాం అనుకోండి రిక్వెస్ట్. సో ఈచ్ టైం ఏమవుతుందంటే ద లోకల్ ఆబ్జెక్ట్ నెంబర్ ఈస్ ఇంక్రిమెంటెడ్. సో పోర్ట్ నెంబర్, internet address, time and object number and object number. There is an object number associated with each object created, so that object number also will pass. And the port number and time together produce a unique process identifier on that computer. So what is the uniqueness here? So we want to prove that it is unique. So how we prove? How we prove that it is unique? So we can prove it is unique simply by concatenating the two things. One is port number and second thing is time of creation. So these two together prove that it is a unique process identified on that computer. So with this approach, remote object references might be represented with a format, yeah, shown in the slide. So this is the format. This is nothing but the remote object reference, ROR, remote object reference. Okay. So internet address, port number, time, object number. So this is nothing but the interface of the remote object. Interface of the remote object. Okay. Is the things clear to you? And those object identifier and the unique identifier which is present at the server side is nothing but the remote object reference. Is it unique? Yes. So will it change when we invoke once again? Yes. It will get incremented. This object number it gets incremented. So that is what happens in case of method here. Okay, object number gets incremented. So each time an object is created in that process. Object is created in that process. Okay. So how to allow remote objects to be reallocated in different process on different computer? So in that case, the remote object reference should not be used as the address of the remote object. Okay. So there is a format that allows objects to be activated in different sets through its lifetime. Okay. So that's the format which we have used, but not through this remote object reference. So it's just a method to invoke an object, but but for relocation, so the remote object reference should not be used. This is another important point. And the next one is the so we will see that in unit 5 we will see that there is a peer-to-peer overlay. Okay, so it uses a form of remote object reference, so that is completely independent of its location. So messages are routed to resources by means of distributed routing algorithm. మరి ఎలా జరుగుతుంది సార్ ఈ రిలోకేషన్ ఒక చోట నుంచి ఇంకోటి ఆ మూవ్మెంట్ అనేది ఎలా జరుగుతుంది అంటే సింప్లీ బై యూజింగ్ ద డిస్ట్రిబ్యూటెడ్ రౌటింగ్ అల్గారిథమ్స్. ఎలా కంప్యూటర్ నెట్వర్క్స్ రౌటింగ్ అల్గారిథమ్స్ ఎలా అయితే ఉంటాయో డిస్ట్రిబ్యూటెడ్ సిస్టమ్స్ లో కూడా దేర్ ఆర్ రౌటింగ్ అల్గారిథమ్స్ ప్రెజెంట్ ఇన్ డిస్ట్రిబ్యూటెడ్ సిస్టమ్. Okay, so messages are routed to the resources by means of this distributed routing algorithm. And if you see, the last field is interface of remote object. What is the last field here? So the last field here is interface of remote object. So what does this mean? So for example, interface name. Okay, interface of remote object. That means interface name. అంటే రిజల్ట్ మనకి మళ్ళీ రావాలి. సో ఇప్పుడు మెసేజ్ క్లయింట్ నుంచి సర్వర్ పంపిస్తున్నారు రిమోట్ మీద ఇన్వొకేషన్. సో ఆఫ్టర్ దట్ వాట్ హ్యాపెన్స్, వి విల్ ఎక్స్పెక్ట్ ఏ రిజల్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ ది రిమోట్ మెథడ్. దట్ remote method, how we will get it? Through this interface of remote object. So this is the field which is present in the remote object reference. Okay, this is the format of the remote object reference. Okay, so and which is used in order to get the result from the remote object. Remote object. Any doubt till here? Any doubt? So with this, remote object reference is also over. So next is client server communication. Next topic is client server communication. Client server communication. So what is this what is this form of communication? We have seen UDP communication, we have seen TCP communication, where there are Java APIs available for communication. So what about this client server communication? Do these also have methods? Yes, there are methods available in distributed system, even for client server communication. So now we will discuss each one of these. So what is a normal form of communication? Which we have seen that there are two types of communication. One is asynchronous communication, synchronous communication. So in asynchronous, in synchronous request reply communication, so what happens is the client blocks until a reply arrives from the server. So is reliable kada? So this is a reliable communication. Why? Because the reply from the server is nothing but the acknowledgement of the to the client, acknowledgement to the client. And I think what about asynchronous communication? So asynchronous clients request reply communication is an alternative that may be useful in situations where client can afford to retrieve replies later. Immediately ga naaku avasara reply kavali kani not immediately, wait for some time, not replies, can afford to can afford to retrieve the replies later. So that is nothing but the asynchronous request reply communication. Synchronous request reply communication and asynchronous request reply communication. Okay, so here we will see that the client and server exchanges the messages in terms of send and receive. ఈ రెండు ఎక్కడో వచ్చినాయి మనకి, యూడిపిలో కూడా వచ్చినాయి, సెండ్ అండ్ రిసీవ్. సో ఇక్కడ కూడా ఈ క్లయింట్ సర్వర్ కమ్యూనికేషన్ లో హౌ ద క్లయింట్ అండ్ సర్వర్ ఎక్స్చేంజ్ మెసేజెస్ బై సెండ్ అండ్ రిసీవ్. సెండ్ అండ్ రిసీవ్ ఇన్ జావా ఏపీఐ. yeah, so a protocol built over datagrams avoids unnecessary overhead associated with the TCP stream. So in particular acknowledgements are written. That means requests are followed by replies. And also establishing connection involves extra pairs of messages in addition to the pair required for a request and a reply. So what is meant by establishing a connection? What is flow control? It is acknowledgement. Okay, so what is exactly a reply? That we will discuss now. Okay, so we have seen several overheads associated with the TCP. TCP UDP లో సెండ్ రిసీవ్ ఉన్నాయి, అక్కడ కమ్యూనికేట్ చేసాం. కానీ ఓవర్ హెడ్స్ ఏంటి? ఓవర్ హెడ్స్ ఏంటంటే ఎక్నాలజ్మెంట్స్ ఆర్ రిడెండెంట్. అంటే ఎక్నాలజ్మెంట్ అంటే చేరినా కూడా ఇంకా మళ్ళీ ఎక్నాలజ్మెంట్ చేరుతుంది, మెసేజ్ పంపించింది అక్కడ చేరటానికి కదా. సో దట్ మీన్స్ దే ఆర్ రిడెండెంట్. ఓకే, అంటే ప్రతిదానికి ఎలా ఉంటుంది మీకు? సో ప్రతిదానికి ఫోన్ చేయండి ఎలా ఉంటుంది? సో ఇన్ ద సేమ్ వే. ఓకే, సో ప్రతి రిక్వెస్ట్ కి రిప్లై రావాలి అంటే అది రిడెండెంటే, అట్లా అనమాట. అలానే సో ఇదంతా ఈ యూడిపి టీసీపీలో ఈ ఓవర్ హెడ్స్ అన్ని ఉన్నాయి. ఏంటి? ఫస్ట్ ఓవర్ హెడ్ ఏంటంటే redundant acknowledgements are redundant. That means every request is followed by a reply. That is the first overhead. Second overhead in UDP and TCP is establishing a connection involves two pairs of messages in addition to the pair required for a request and a reply. Two pairs of messages, establishing a connection. Establish చేయాలనుకోండి, టీసీపీలో అయితే ఏం చేయాలి? యాక్సెప్ట్ టు లిజన్, సారీ కనెక్ట్ టు యాక్సెప్ట్. ఓకే, సో అలానే ఫ్లో కంట్రోల్. సో ఫ్లో కంట్రోల్ ఏముంది? redundant. Why? because it pass only small arguments and results. Flow control is redundant because it pass only small arguments and results. That is also redundant. And the redundancy and TCP UDP. That's what we are discussing now. Okay. So how we deal this? So we deal this with using request reply protocols. So what is the request reply protocol? What is a okay, so what is the request reply protocol? So request reply protocol is, it is based on a trio of communication. Trio ante 3 andi. Entante do operand, get request, send reply. TCP UDP అనేది రెండే, ఏమంటే అవి సెండ్ రిసీవ్ లేదా కనెక్ట్ లిజన్. కానీ ఇక్కడ ఇన్ కేస్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ రిక్వెస్ట్ రిప్లై కమ్యూనికేషన్ దేర్ ఆర్ 3 primitives. సో వాట్ ఆర్ 3 communication primitives? What are those? Do operation, చూడండి ఇక్కడ. If you see here, then you will know.